Welcome back. Finally, we'll talk about the very existential question. Why should you do this course? So, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story and an imagination part. Imagine you're walking through a nice office with a lot of nice flashy computers, everyone is working on it, and you are going to get to an interview for a job, and then you go and say that, but sir, I can't type. Now, there are certain things which will not be pertinent to the job, but they're assumed to be important. This is 2024. When you pass out 2028 and when you finally settle down into a job, let's say 2030s, the entire scenario that you are seeing today is bound to change. You are already seeing in the last 1.5 years the amount of change and questions that have come. So many jobs which essentially are not looking at thinking, critical appreciation, problem solving, are actually being made redundant. And as you go through the timeline, by the time you pass out, it will be even more so. Now, if you were thinking, remember the course name is Entrepreneurial Skill Development. It's not entrepreneurship. Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone needs to work in an entrepreneurship mindset, but each of you, more so now in this day and time, will need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. We'll do a little bit of wordplay. You have heard the word enterprising. What does it mean? Creative, someone who takes initiative, someone who does that. That actually comes from the word enterprise, which you all know. But enterprise typically for us in common parlance means a business. It's a huge enterprise, it's a small enterprise, small and medium enterprises. So, we've lost the meaning that it's there. The actual root of the word is a French word called entreprendre, which simply means that taking up a project which has not been taken, venturing into the unknown, taking a risk to get something risk, and having that entire absorption psychologically that you may fail because it's an untested territory. That quality of entrepreneurial mindset will be essential no matter what you do. Even if you do a government job, even if you are a teacher, even if you think that you are going to do a job of any CXO, and you should set your standards high, I am talking CXOs, but even if you think of a job of a normal coder, you need to be entrepreneurial. You will need to do that part. So, this course that we are doing on innovation and entrepreneurship essentially is to make sure that your entrepreneurial skills are awakened, sharpened, and made to be used. So, that is the main part of the course requirement and the course reason to exist. And that is the reason we at Techno and through all its sister organizations and all have thought it to be very important to be made into a compulsory subject. Probably we are at the forefront of doing it, not everyone is doing it, everywhere it's optional, but we think it is going to be a foundational course, and you will find your calling, you will become entrepreneurial, and that's the whole idea that we look at. So, now that we have got the basic question wrong, let's understand what is entrepreneurship. Allow me to just take this chair and put it on the side, it's not needed. So, now what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is someone who feels that whatever he or she has spotted is actually a problem people need a solution for. Now, someone may think of a problem which may not be needed. Working on it and finding a need and fulfilling a need is the true nature of an entrepreneurial mindset. And that could be anywhere. Your grandmother could be very entrepreneurial because she takes the cold food and makes it into a samosa just from a spare curry. Your gardener may be entrepreneurial because he somehow found a fix to find a solution to a problem where if it was too short thing, he's put a sprouter, he's got some jugaad, and that's a word that we use often, like jugaad. But slowly that's the start of it, but that's not it. You have to still make it into that part. So, the entrepreneurial mindset has, in my mind, 4 key quality aspects. It's extremely curious, it's extremely determined, it's extremely resilient, and if it believes in something, it perceives in it, but at the same time not at the cost of logic. It's not a stupid perseverance or something which becomes arrogant perseverance. It's very, very objective perseverance to make sure that yes, this problem needs a solution, I will do it. Sometimes people may not see it that way, sometimes people may completely do it, but that is true for any innovation and things. So, imagine the first person who thought of something, we do not know who the inventor of a wheel is, do we? We do not. But the fact is, someone had a spark and had an entrepreneurial thought that I should be able to move it faster, and hey, these logs, I slip on them, maybe I can slip the stuff on them, and that started becoming the wheel. Maybe initially it was not a wheel, maybe it was just a log on which people were transporting. Then they thought, why have the whole thing, why not have a thing? So, concepts come and then science follows. That is what an entrepreneurial mind does. It finds a solution, it finds an application and solves a problem. So, that skill is what we are going to develop. How do you develop things like curiosity? Curiosity needs a little bit of observation power, it needs a little bit of resilience to be not going with the flow and doing what others are doing, because then you are not being curious enough, you are just being, it is FOMO, right, fear of missing out, not exactly curiosity. Curiosity, the difference is that you are actually trying to think a little bit and say, why is this happening? The why is more important than the what in a curious mind. What is there, but not at the level of the why. So, people who look for the why are the curious mindsets. The second or the other qualities that are there, like I talked of, determination, perseverance, all these things. These are all molten as a consequence of curiosity, because curiosity is root node from where all of these things come as a natural fulfillment part. You cannot have non-perseverance and be curious. Then you are not really curious, you are just fleetingly thinking. Many people are like that. They have a curiosity, but it is very fleeting. It comes and goes and there is no perseverance to follow up with that. They will not become an entrepreneur. They can become a great person to have a conversation with, they may have a great person to brainstorm with, but they lack that entrepreneurial mindset. We typically call these people creative, but solution making and creativity jumbled together to get to an end result, that is entrepreneurship. Again, the word creative. We often think creative is about writing poetry and painting pictures and all, but entrepreneurial nature by itself fosters the creative environment, but it sees it through to a conclusion. It could be a rejection also, but it sees it through a conclusion. That is a salient feature of entrepreneurship. So, there are classical theories which we will get into more details and we will have much more aspects of it discussed, but we will want to focus a lot on case studies, we want to focus on a lot of what is happening, and what I want to initiate you today is why especially you, being a part of India, which is Bharat, which has a huge divergence of socio-economic policies, cultures, diversity, but diverseness are different. Diversity is great, but diverse income is not great. So, understanding those and finding solutions for those will be more and more pressing needs, especially for the generation that you are. That is why your entrepreneurial skills are even more needed than, let us say, 20 years back or 50 years back or 40 years back when we were passing out. But despite that, despite those aspects, that generation of entrepreneurial skills have always been the change makers for the country. We now need it at scale, we now need it at the more micro level and all those things. Even a good shopkeeper is entrepreneurial, and we all know that you go and ask for a thing, he says, how much do you consume, or he looks at that part and says everyone is asking for it, and he starts keeping it. Sometimes he does not do it for profit, he just makes sure the footfalls are happening. So, they do all these sorts of mixtures. A guy who is selling his courses, artists by nature, who are solo actors, they become entrepreneurial, and that is going to be the nature of the work you are doing. Even if you do a job, you will need entrepreneurial qualities to stand out, because everyone wants to not do a robotic work is a spec is given and someone executes it. That is pretty robotic. The human part of it is when you take a brief, you assimilate it, you extend it, and anyone who gives you the job knows that you will add some value and they like the value you are putting. That is why they pay you that extra mullah. Keep that in mind as to what that core aspect of entrepreneurship is all about. From the classic theory, you essentially go through a process. Even if things are happening randomly, there is still a process. And this is not different from a scientific process of having observation, having things and moving on with it. So, typically you have an observation which leads to an idea that needs to a kind of a process. You execute the process, and most importantly, you understand that execution and process is a loop and it keeps on happening. You finish off a project, you finish off a painting, that's done. But when you continuously want to keep on changing and having a facets. So, the difference between a painter and a museum curator. A museum curator by nature, a painter needs to be creative. He needs to be entrepreneurial to make sure that he can put food on his table. But a museum curator, the job itself is that of entrepreneurial. Asking which picture should go here, where should people come from, what pictures are not working, what do I change. He always is in that cycle on that part. Now, added to that will be the complexity that you will look at, where tools and all are becoming there. Like we talked about, you telling that I don't know how to type, everyone look at you and wonder. When you pass out, I don't know what tools are there. Obviously, we have given you a brief of what tools you already have in access and being able to use them and do it. So, net, I will tell a cliched comment which you hear. Everyone is scared of AI replacing them, but the key aspect is most likely you will be replaced by someone who can use AI better than you. So, learning all those things, learning the tools and all, and that needs a lot of entrepreneurship, because the first state of jugaad is what can I do with this tool instead of going to someone, can I expand my idea and do it. That framework is like a spiral. You need to go up and up, but it is an iterative spiral. You have a thesis, you test it, you create a model, you make the tool sets, then you see that tool is not working, you change tools, or you get a skill set person who does it. That is the whole point of it. Often you hear these proverbs like fail fast, fail good. What does it mean? It means that do not put your energy into trying to make a perfect product. There is no perfection. Done is better than perfect. These are the key aspects that I want to tell you, which probably we will, you can read everything else in the notes and the library will give you, but these are feedback that I want to give to you on the basis of what true entrepreneurship would essentially entail. Done is better than perfect is a great way to define an entrepreneur. There is no perfection. It's an ever rising bar. What is perfect yesterday may be standard today, and perfect today may be unthinkable before, because people didn't even know they can reach that level. I mean, think about it this way. Before, if we got something in 14 days from a place, we were happy. Today, if it takes more than 2 days, no matter what the distance, we say, why does it take so much time? What an inefficient system. Standards rise. That leads to the entrepreneurial mindset of meeting demands. Ultimately, it's economics. You have to sustain yourself. If you are not meeting a demand and you are not able to supply to it, there is no buyer. If there is no buyer, there is no focus. So, things are very simple. You have to add value, and that value adding, because everyone else also wants to add value. Your specialty is basically your skill and your entrepreneurial mindset. When skill is combined with entrepreneurial mindset, that is the ideal potent mix. Typically, people who are very high skilled often don't like being entrepreneurs. People who are very entrepreneurial often don't like being very skill based. People who are the mix of these two often become the stalwart entrepreneurs that you look up to as role model. All said and done, he was a Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, you hear all these things. But look at the kind of grind work they have done, look at the kind of skill they have and all. But you know what? There is one commonality. Entrepreneurs master one skill first, and that's the part that we will talk about. Entrepreneurs master a skill which is how to learn, because they know learning is perennial. They come up with a formula as to how they can quickly absorb a subject, get to the crux of it, look at the relevant information or expertise, and then weave it into a solution. And they keep on doing it endlessly because they have mastered that art of learning. Most of us, when we think of learning, we think it as a termination. I have learned this, it's done. Nothing gets done. Even if you learn something as simple as a plus b whole square equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square, you still need to learn why did it happen? What can I use it for? And that is the basis. Why do I need a plus b whole square? If I have a plus b whole square solved, can I take the third number and increase? Can I do it that way? What are the formulations? And all, why are you doing all of this? Main thing is all of us have one constrained resource, and that's time. You, I, The biggest billionaire, the oldest man and the youngest kid all have 24 hours in a day, and we have a limited lifespan. So anything, and knowledge is basically not reinventing the wheel or inventing the wheel when it's reinventing the wheel when it's needed. So do not fall for proverbs which give half the picture. You often hear that do not reinvent the wheel. Do not reinvent the wheel. But think about it. The bullock cart wheel, which was the first wheel, let's say, for the longest period, would that be able to land a plane? Absolutely not. So, but at the same time, if you're making a bullock cart, then don't reinvent. That is what is cumulative knowledge. Now, the world population may be 8 billion, but people who have walked the earth as human beings would easily be in the hundreds of billions, because we have had generations of people coming and going. The knowledge that is accumulated through that, how fast you access that, how fast you are able to use it, learn from it, and then execute a new step. That will depend on the volume of learning, so that you don't invent something which has already been done, and it will also depend on how fast you can search from that part. The second proverb that I would want to talk about is, a good knowledge match is trying to find a needle in a haystack. That's a big problem if you don't have the tools. Imagine that learning is that perfect magnet that you have been able to do, which can draw out the needle from whatever haystack is there. That's a skill you develop, that magnet. And the magnet is two-way. You have to polarize yourself to know that you are attracting the right knowledge, and then apply it in the right space. And if you are lucky, you know which haystack to go to first. That's the only thing. But finally, at the monetarist level, it is that attractive power of you looking for a solution which will give you the true knowledge. So that's the reason need-based learning is often much more helpful. You learn a theory, there is no end to it. But you have a problem and you're trying to find what theory is relevant to solving the problem, you will always do it in a much faster elapsed time. That's what entrepreneurs crack. That's a key entrepreneurial asset. The second great entrepreneurial asset is team building. Being able to communicate, being able to tell your dream, your vision, being able to encourage people so that they feel that this is worth my time. And that's what people do. Money and all are important, and we often get backed of it. But I have a thesis that ultimately we all work for respect. In the absence of a measure of respect, money becomes the only denominator of respect. But if you do something which is very fulfilling and respectful, and someone shows you that vision, you will work for him or people will work for you. That's a very classic entrepreneurial classic quality, that they can attract the right people, they can motivate people, and they can communicate very clearly. Third attribute is clarity of thought and honesty, which comes out in communication. Often most entrepreneurs say, oh, he is talking bullshit, he has a very bad temperament. It's just that probably they are not following social decorum of being nice. I'm not talking abusive. I'm just saying upfront is a great quality of most entrepreneurs who actually solve problems that I have seen. They value their time, so they cut to the chase. They don't beat around the bush. They come to the point and speak their mind. And they're very open-minded. They are very resilient in their thought. If you don't have a solid logic, they will not accept it. But if you show logic, they're the first to accept it. They don't get into the arrogant perseverance or arrogant determination that, no, I will prove that I am wrong. They will take a while, they will try to beat your logic, they will fine-tune that part. See, that's a point that unfortunately in an environment today we don't see much of it. Your best contradictor often is your best teacher. Because when you debate with contradictory principles, the intermediary is what makes knowledge gainful for both of you. Because it's highly improbable either of you on the extremes are right. Life is all about being gray. It's not black and white. To work and have a working template, we need a black and white. But being able to traverse through the grays, being able to communicate that effectively, being able to articulate the problem, that's a very good, important quality of an entrepreneur. These are the skills you have to come up. I'll come with more. But do you see the resemblance? Do you think any of these skills are not important for whatever job you do? You can be a teacher, you can be a foreman, you can be a taxi driver. These are basic traits. You have to learn. You have to go on and doing it. I mean, imagine the transition. You and I are educated and all. Just a manual gear shift to an electronic gear shift and all. How much time does a person take, a driver, and they adopt? Look at how this, in lack of better words and the dignity that we don't give, this unpar gawards we call them, right? How fast did they adopt to a Google map, and many of our educated, old-aged family members are not able to adapt to the map. Necessity is the other parts. Entrepreneurs have an innate intuitive sense of being able to understand what is a necessity and quickly learn that with a focus. That's an entrepreneurial mindset. It's a survival part that triggers them. So they are very instinctive for that reason. Trust your instincts. You are all new. We are in our age. There was the Obi-Wan which used to tell, trust your feelings, Luke, and we actually took it literally. But there is a lot of sense in that part. Everyone has logic. Your uniqueness is intuition. How you use it, how you back your intuition, that's a key differentiator with an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur backs their intuition, but they do a backtracking, a back logic calculation to say, why did I think that? And the more that exercise of circumventing they do as to why is it that I came, the more their logic becomes stronger, the more their intuition also becomes stronger, because now they are assimilating the process of intuition itself. As a good entrepreneur, these are things you have to do it. When you study a subject, many of you, and I encourage that, first go to solve the problems. When you know that from first principles you are not able to solve the problem, then you know there is a knowledge gap, and then you go and fix it. But if you, without a purpose, are learning any knowledge, it actually becomes just a mugging and vomiting thing, which the current education system of marks and all will do it. But in the real world, that's what you are retrained for, to forget that approach and to do for a solutions-based approach. So find the solution. This is a debatable topic, but I will still talk about it. Great entrepreneurs have one quality, and somewhere it's a collection of all the things that we have talked, and we will call it empathy. Empathy is being able to change your point of view and look at it from multiple places. A good debater needs it, a good learner needs it, a good problem solver needs it. But solutions of empathy and solutions of sympathy, if these are the broad two classes, solutions of empathy will always win. Sympathy is, oh, I am from so and so place, I have learned engineering, what did this stupid person know? I will tell him for him, I will tell it for him, and he has to follow it, he has to obey. Whenever you are in that mindset that you are superior, the solutions have a very small chance of success. Everything has a chance of success. Nothing is impossible, just improbable. Whereas another person's perspective could be, if they are doing it for such a long time, they must have a reason. Let me find out the reason why they are doing it. Then, that again the why are they doing it, will lead you to the actual solution in a much faster way. And those solutions often do it. Now, in a very arrogant system, we call that pivoting. But in the true sense, it was making up for lacking empathy. You lack the empathy of seeing what the problems would be. You never understood the problem from the perspective of the person. You are becoming wiser, you are becoming empathetic. So training yourself to be empathetic is very important. That's easier said than done. But start off with simple things like understanding for your own project, what are the perspectives of your team members? What is the motivation? Why are they doing it? What is becoming boring for them? Why is that boring for them? And you will be a much better thing. I want to tell one more thing, which is the importance of team spirit. And I will tell you from the best example that I am aware of. It's about a fighting unit in army. You are surrounded by enemies on all sides, shots can come from all sides. So you distribute, you will look at northeast, you will look at northwest, you will look straight north. Now, if you don't have empathy for the other person, if you don't trust your team members, you will keep on having to check on them over their shoulders, and the chance is you will miss your duty and get shot, and your team will get exposed. But if you have faith in your team and you move as a whole, and you believe everyone will do their parts of it, you may still fail, but you have a higher chance of survival. Having a doubt is a sure way to not survive. There is a chance you will survive even if the guy is incompetent, because at least all of them being incompetent together is much less. But if all look here and there, surely all of you are incompetent. Now, even if one person fails, that side is exposed, but the other sides are still resilient. That is a great aspect of teamwork, and in entrepreneurship, that's most needed. and it's needed for anything, in football, in cricket, any team sport does that. Get your lessons from the playing field. Understand the same rules of teammanship, sportsmanship apply to the field of entrepreneurship also. There is one aspect which especially in this part of the country is very important, and that's money. Now, whether money motivates you or not, I'm not so worried. But I always feel entrepreneurs should be very, very motivated by profit. You have to make sure that your profitability is your core focus, and you are making sure that you are able to get maximum profit over the period. Again, that V plus FT, right? U plus FT. The F matters more. If you overprice them and it's a kind of a monopoly, you will get a great market, you will make your money and all those things. That's why money is not important. But your profits in future will go down because people will stop buying, you will create space for it. So focusing on profit is the true essence of an entrepreneur. And that also doesn't clash with any cultural values or any ethos or morals. Making money is not bad, maximizing profit is not bad. What you do with the profit is up to you. That's where your heart comes out. So don't confuse profitability with money making. Money making is a choice. For an entrepreneur, profitability should not be a choice. And profitability puts in the long term and short term automatically. There are certain parts that you will do, scarcity marketing and all. You learn all those terms, and I'm sure you learn it more because it's buzz. All papers, everything is being done. But remember, the basics don't change. And the basic rule is, would you want to be in your customer's shoes? Once you develop that empathy, things will be much easier. If you do this, what will your customer think? Being able to outthink an anticipated state. Next point I want to talk about is, not all of you, hopefully some of you, and surely the need is there, will work and start working for a category that does not exist today. Now, the most challenging kind of entrepreneurs are the ones who know that this market doesn't exist, and they are often with this question, I am building something which people in the future would need. That's a very difficult question to answer, but that's where the maximum part comes. When Google started, did anyone realize that people would want to have a search engine which is so ubiquitously used? Did they even know that they will need an operating system to incorporate that? Mobile will become so good. But they went and stuck to their core competency. Every successful things move with their user groups. On a different note, think of J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter. Her first book was for 8 to 10, when Harry was 8 to 10. But the people who were 8 to 10, by the time the next book came, were 12. So the topics became larger and more matured, and she grew with them. And that's why it became a classic series. Every serial, every long-landing ones, are able to weave into the culture code or have empathy for society they are serving to, and that's why they survive. And that's the critical part. Survival brings profitability. In fact, high profit, high focus on profit and not profitability, high money making ability is often the reason why you die a premature death, because people latch on to it. Nothing supernormal exists. That brings me to the last of the session, and I want to make you aware. I called it Lincolnism. Abraham Lincoln said a very important word, and as an entrepreneur, that's one thing you should remember every 2 hours, if not one. You can fool all of the people some of the time, and some of the people all of the time, but you can never fool all the people all the time. So someone will catch on. There are better, superior intelligence than outside, and in today's world, if someone discovers, everyone knows. So when you are planning, I know nothing of this is formulas and how to raise funds. They are not important. They come as natural consequences. There is a process for it. There are obscene number of literature. These are the hidden things which no one talks about, but they are the root of a good entrepreneurial system. Go out and look at all the logs and branches and trees, but the roots are what supplies the nutrients, drags it from the internal part and feeds it to the upper system. These are the roots. For me, going forward, I will focus on the roots and leave you to go and see the scenery from other places. That's going to be the way this course is going to be taken. Thank you so much.